The Zarin Dominion had studied countless species across the galaxy. They catalogued civilizations, dissected customs, and documented traditions with detached precision. Yet, nothing prepared them for humanity's most confusing, most unsettling behavior: feasting. Specifically, feasting before battle. On board the Zarin observation vessel Inquiry of Truth, Ambassador Kraelon watched in fascination and growing discomfort as the human soldiers of the Earth Coalition prepared for war, not with solemn silence, but with laughter, music, and shared meals that filled the air with alien aromas and primal energy. They eat before bloodshed, he murmured to his second. They celebrate, said Advisor Yulrix, his spindly tendrils twitching nervously, as if battle were a festival. No. Celebration is for victory, Kraelon replied. This is something else, something deeper. They honor death before it arrives. Down on the surface of Zeta 9, Commander Mara Ellison stood at the center of a massive field, tense, surrounded by her elite strike unit 2nd Drop Battalion, Calcine, Iron Fang. Tables were lined with roasted meat, baked starches, sweet drinks, and steaming pots of cultural stews from every corner of Earth. There was laughter, clinking glasses, and stories of past battles shared between mouthfuls. This wasn't gluttony, this was memory. Mara raised her glass to the fallen, to the brothers and sisters who shared this table before their last fight, and to those who will join them tomorrow. Eat well, fight better. The entire battalion roared in approval. From a nearby observation drone, the Zarin recorded everything. Back on the Inquiry of Truth, the footage was played before the Dominion's high table. The response was confusion, discomfort, then fear. Why do they feast? Asked Chancellor Vrel. What logic is there in consumption before combat? It dulls the senses, slows the reflexes. No, Chancellor, Kraelon replied. It sharpens something else, something we cannot quantify. Humanity does not fight to survive. They fight for the right to survive, and they begin that battle by remembering why they fight. Before we dive into this intense sci-fi tale, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with anyone who loves epic space stories. Your support helps us keep exploring the galaxy, one story at a time. The dawn of battle cast an amber hue across the landscape of Zeta 9, a planet rich with mineral veins and strategic corridors. For the Zarin Dominion, it was another asset to consume. For the Earth Coalition, it was something far more profound, a place where names would be earned, remembered, and mourned. Commander Mara Ellison tightened her exo-armor gauntlets, standing atop the ridge, overlooking the valley below. Her troops stood ready, their stomachs still warm from last night's feast, their minds focused not on fear, but on legacy. Their rituals give them mental immunity to dread. Ambassador Kraelon whispered aboard the orbiting Zarin cruiser. They anchored their fear in community, and they weaponized memory. As Earth forces launched their first offensive maneuvers, the Zarin watched in disbelief. The humans didn't falter, didn't hesitate. Their firepower was brutal, yes, but it was their coordination, their silent resolve, their eerie unity that unnerved the Dominion's warlords. Even in the chaos of combat, humans moved like a pack, a tribe, a single organism of will. Lieutenant Raymay Ortiz ducked beneath enemy plasma fire, sliding behind a fallen pillar as bullets tore the air. He tapped his comms. Eagle team, press left. Vulture team, you've got the air corridor. Sweep it clean. A calm voice replied. Copy. Let's serve 'em something they'll choke on. Even in the thick of war, the language remained visceral, grounded in experience. These weren't soldiers built on protocol, they were built on culture. The Zarin didn't understand. They believed humanity was fractured, diverse, incompatible, but they hadn't realized that diversity wasn't division. It was fusion. Each human brought a story, a dish, a tactic, a truth. Together, they were unstoppable. The battlefield quieted. Smoke curled upward from scorched trenches and shattered bunkers on Zeta 9. What had been a pristine alien mining outpost now lay buried beneath the fire and footfalls of human soldiers. But this was not the end. It was an intermission, a time to remember. Inside a temporary forward command base, Commander Mara Ellison stood with her sleeves rolled up and a steel pot in her hands. Around her, soldiers passed plates, stirred cauldrons, and baked rationed loaves with hands still streaked with soot and blood. They were cooking. Again. 3rd Battalion took the southern ridge, said Sergeant Kellen. 2 injuries. No fatalities. Then we cook, Mara replied simply. From orbit, Ambassador Kraelon watched the footage. His compound eyes glimmered with something he rarely felt, reverence. They do not eat to celebrate the kill. he said to his command staff. They eat to carry the names of the dead. The human second feast, held under makeshift canopies and stars, wasn't festive. It was sacred. Each table bore a name. Every dish told a story. The Tsar, who once mocked such traditions as primitive, now couldn't look away. This was more than morale. This was memory given flavor. On a distant Tsarn cruiser, young Lieutenant Vorlex studied the human footage with quiet awe. How does one fight a species that turns sorrow into strength? His superior grunted. We'll learn their weaknesses. But Vorlex wasn't convinced. He had seen the way the humans honored even their enemies. That night, as the humans shared silence and stew, the seeds of doubt began to take root within him. Down on Zeta 9, Lieutenant Remy Ortiz sat with his unit beside a battered cooking drum. His hands were still bandaged from plasma burns, but he stirred the pot anyway. I'm using my mother's recipe, he said quietly. She made this before my first deployment. She said every soldier needed a taste of home to remind them of what they're fighting for. The others nodded, solemn. No toasts, no speeches, just the sound of cooking, the crackling of heat, and the whispers of memory. Sergeant Kellen approached. Enemy movement to the west. Small probe teams. No engagement yet. Ortiz stood, passed his ladle to another soldier. Then they'll smell this and know we're ready. Across the battlefield, drones from the Tsarn War Councils hovered. They recorded heat, signatures, weapon inventories and food. What is this? Asked Warlord Jarek, staring at the footage. Why do they spend energy on this? Distraction. It's not distraction, said Krelanox. It's direction. Their unity isn't just tactical. It's ancestral. You sound like you admire them, Jarek sneered. I fear them, Krelanox replied. And you should too. Commander Mara Ellison stood on the western ridge of Zeta 9, her armor caked in dust, the sunset bleeding through the cracks in the clouds like a final warning. Behind her, her unit moved, with quiet discipline not out of fear, but from understanding. The day's battle was over. Victory had been claimed. But something was different now. In the Tsarn command fleet, confusion had turned to division. Ambassador Krelanox had called for a halt. Warlord Jarek wanted escalation. They've consumed half the territory, Jarek growled, and now they feast again. Not a feast, Krelanox corrected. A reckoning. They remember every inch of ground they earn. Every name, every bite is a promise they won't leave. And you propose we surrender. I propose we learn. At the makeshift Earth Coalition base, ovens glowed. Steam rose. Drones delivered trays. In the center, a large stone was erected by the soldiers. A flat surface, a cutting board, a table. On it, they placed loaves of bread shaped like shields, filled with herbs from Earth, a symbol. The Tsarn sent a diplomat. Lieutenant Vorlex arrived under white banners, escorted past tanks and artillery. He entered the camp. He was invited to dinner. Vorlex walked between rows of soldiers eating in silence, save for the clinking of spoons against bowls and the occasional murmur of remembrance. He was seated next to a veteran named Collins, who passed him a warm plate, meat, gravy, a piece of bread still steaming from the field oven. What's in this? Vorlex asked. Collins smiled. More than food. That's my dad's stew. The same one he made before his last deployment. I promised him I'd learn to cook it right. Vorlex hesitated. Then he took a bite, and something changed. He didn't understand the flavor, but he understood the feeling. Over the course of an hour, Vorlex listened. He learned the names of soldiers' families. He heard poems carved on ration packs. He watched as a fallen comrade's plate was left full, untouched, and saluted before the fire. When he returned to the Tsarn command ship, he didn't file a tactical report. He filed a request for cultural armistice. Warlord Jarek was furious. They have infected you. No, Vorlex replied. They fed me. Krelanox stood at the edge of the chamber. It is not a weakness to eat. It is a choice to remember. That night, a ceasefire was proposed. 1 week. No bombs, no skirmishes, just silence. And in that silence, across Zeta 9, fires were lit. Bread was broken. And for the first time in galactic history, humans and aliens shared a table not because one side had won, but because both had chosen not to lose something deeper. Before we dive into this intense sci-fi tale, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video with anyone who loves epic space stories. Your support helps us keep exploring the galaxy, one story at a time. The ceasefire had held for 6 days. On the 7th, a Tsarn dreadnought broke orbit. No warning, no declaration, just plasma trails and silent betrayal. Commander Mara Ellison got the report at 040 hours. The attack had begun on the southern front where the ceasefire banners still fluttered, Dozens of human forward posts were hit, and in every one, the cooking fires were still lit. That night, Earth wept for its chefs, but tears weren't all that came. By morning, retaliation orders were issued, not just for vengeance, but to protect what the enemy clearly did not understand, to remind them that a species that feasts before war is not soft. They are simply honoring their hunger. Human forces across Zeta 9 shifted from defense to total engagement. Operations previously held in reserve were unleashed with precision and fury, not chaotic revenge measured retribution. Commander Ellison stood before her troops, still dressed in the apron she had worn during the previous night's remembrance meal. "You strike us at the table," she said, her voice low and sharp. "Then you will find we know how to turn a flame into a forge, and you are what's on the menu." Her battalion moved like a rolling storm. Meanwhile, aboard the Zarin command vessel Judgment of Eartha, Lieutenant Vorlex watched with a heavy heart as battle reports poured in. "They lied," he whispered. Beside him, Ambassador Kraelon nodded gravely. "They never intended peace. Jarek used the ceasefire to reposition troops. He thinks fear is control. It's not," Vorlex